Hello, good evening, and welcome to the War Room. This is day 47 of Russia's illegal incursion into the Ukraine. A socialist state declaring war on a sovereign nation. Strangely enough, I could draw the parallel between that and what's going on at the southern border of the United States, because I live in a state that's part of the southern border of the United States. The biggest state that has a southern border with the United States. Texas. That's right. Proud Texan. Whataburger is a religion here, despite the fact that it is now owned by a conglomerate based in Chicago. Sorry for that. You're going to hear some clicking noises because Pwnery got his birthday present 2 days early. That's right. My new toy arrived today. I'm quite happy with it because I wasn't sure what imitation Bakelite furniture would look like. But it turned out quite well. And if you're part of my Discord server, there's a channel called Gunpicks, and you will see it in there. And if you're not part of my server, you will find the link to join it in the description below. Especially if you're a turtle named Mr. Knives, who still is fighting to find excuses of why he can't get Discord to work. Because he is more than welcome to hang out here with us. Regardless, I am currently, which you can probably hear, loading magazines. And those magazines are many because Pwnery bought a new AK for his birthday in 48 hours. My goal was to own a rifle that looked like a Krink, which I did. I bought the PSA AKP a couple of months back. Kind of looks like Osama bin Laden's AK-74 SU, but I wanted it in 7.62x39, so I got the AKP. And I bought Bakelite magazines, and it turned out quite nice. But I also wanted an RPK, which was unavailable, and I wanted a full-size AK, and my plan was to get a Polish WBP Fox, and those were unavailable. So I did the next best thing. I kept it in America, and I bought well, you know what? I'm going to do an episode on that very shortly, and I'll show you what I bought. Scott knows what it is, and that's fine, because he sort of helped talk me into it. And I'm actually loading magazines with brass cases, which is also quite nice, because I'm a reloader. So I found a really good deal with a local company here in my area, and they had brass case Norma Tactical 7.62x39, so I bought a shitload of it. Immediately after I placed the order, they realized their error, and they jacked it up $2 a box. It's okay, though. It's fine. Anyway, I've got a rather short show for you today. For a Monday, it was surprisingly limited in the number of stories I have for you. So, apologies for that, but the fact of the matter is there just really wasn't that many updates today. I need Bedouin clothes to go with the Bin Laden AK. That's strange that you would say that, HVS, because my Russian Sober Spetsnaz BDUs arrived today. I had ordered those back on January 5th, and I wasn't sure if they were going to make it to the United States through customs, and they got delivered today. So I got the pants, the BDU top, I got the cap, and I got the beret with the brass medallion, and they all arrived today. Before that order had arrived, I ordered the winter gear, which is the winter coat with the heavy pants and the suspenders on those pants. They're all in that blue, black, and gray winter camo. I love that color pattern. And I bought the sober patches not the Oman patches, because if you've ever seen Cyrillic, the word Oman backwards is homo. I didn't want that, so I bought the sober patches, which looks like COBP. Anyway, I got those, and I put those on the jacket. But then the war in Ukraine kicked off, and I thought, I can't wear this in good conscience. So I turned around and I bought the Ukrainian unit patches, and those will be here probably within a week. And I'll stick those on the jacket. Just in time because it's spring, and it was 90 degrees the other day. Which means I'll just sit in the closet for a while. Either way, like I said, short show today, not very many stories because there wasn't really many updates, but I did have a lot of pictures to share. In the meantime, I will get you all in and out of here within an hour today. I'm almost certain of it. So let me go ahead and say good evening to Shady Hill, Terry Scherer, HVS, Mr. Knives, and Gunmetal Guy, who did make it today. And he actually saw me this morning over at the Early Watch, which is another podcast that I do host here on the Discord server. So I guess this is just a shameless plug, but if you want to join my server, link in the description below. If you want to be a host of your own podcast here on the server and do it the same way I do, I will teach you. I have a series of videos that I keep private, but I'll share it with you, and you can host your show through this Discord just like I do. Anyway, looks like I only have one co-host today because the other one wasn't sure if he's going to be able to hang out. And in all honesty, it would have been his first time here, and in all honesty, you don't want to hear the sound of his live-in mother screaming at him because she sounds like the mother in Throw Mama from the train, so I'll spare you that. Anyway, here is Scott P79. So, good evening to you. You are now here, and I just realized that I let a round roll right off my table, and I found it. So I have to put that in this magazine before I seal it up. There we go. That's 30, I think. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started, because I promised to get you in and out of here relatively quickly today. The thumbnail, actually, the scroller at the bottom is up to date. Correct day, the correct statistics. I know HVS said something like, make sure I get the date right this time. It is correct. And I lost the bag this magazine came in. Odd. Whatever. I'll deal with it later. So, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Scott, you're here, right?
Yep. I'm
Okay.
here.
Funny story, because you're the one who told me about the mount. I'll share it with the others because I'm an idiot. And now that I remember the name, because I told you that I would probably remember what it is as soon as it got here. Pwnery bought an RS Regulate AK mount because it sits nice and low on the gun. Now you have a good idea of what I bought for my birthday. Anyway, that being said, where the hell did that bag go? Fuck it, whatever. I heard something like, make sure you get the upper and lower, and I thought, what the hell is he talking about? Well, the lower apparently got delivered today, and I was like, what the hell is this shit? Because it only has half a mount. So I ordered the upper mount today. Anyway, what was I going to say? Fuck it, whatever. Anyway, I bought the RS Regulate mount. Now I have to get the other half of it, and I also have to... The optics won't be here until frickin' Friday. I bought a Romeo and Juliet setup for my future birthday present, which showed up today. Oh, there's the bag. Anyway, I bought a Romeo MSR and a Juliet 3 Micro for it, but I'm not going to do a video on that because if you saw my AKP video, you noticed that I did like an unboxing video for that. And that was followed by what I call creature comfort upgrades. And I will do the same thing with the, my birthday present today, actually. And I have decided to keep the brake that's on it for now, because it's actually really well made. And it's kind of nice, so I'm going to leave it on there. And if I don't like the way it performs, then I'll switch it out. Warsaw Patriot is in the chat, but he's not in the panel today for whatever reason. But he said his Romeo and Juliet is Poland and Ukraine. All right. So, anyway, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? I will have what I got from my birthday video. With any luck, if I get out of here within the next 50 minutes, I'll go ahead and record it tonight, and I'll put it out on Wednesday on my actual birthday. Pwnery will no longer be the answer to life, the universe, and everything in between as of 11:59 Tuesday, because at 12 o'clock Wednesday, I won't be that anymore. So now you know how old I am. I'm not going to tell you the number. Although my FFL knew exactly what the fuck I was talking about. When I went to go see him today and picked up my present, I told him that. I said, hey, in 2 days, I will no longer be the answer to life, the universe, and everything in between. And he knew exactly what that meant, which is cool. So, enough of that bullshit. Let's go ahead and get started. Today's story, first story. Oh shit, sorry, I got that wrong. The picture you see before you in the thumbnail and on the right side of the screen today, which is poorly scaled, my apologies, is the refugee totals. And the last time I showed you the refugee totals, we were just hitting, I want to say 3 million. We are now at 4.5 million refugees. And it's divided by what countries they have run off to. Scott, stop putting your mic in a blender. Anyway.
Let me mute myself for a second here.
Anyway. So the refugee numbers have been updated recently. And if you look at it, it's pretty sobering. The statistics are pretty sobering because if you look at the numbers who have left to the Russian Federation, 404,418 people have left the Donetsk and Luhansk region of Ukraine, which is the very region that Russia decided they were going to liberate. That's a bit awkward, isn't it? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but
it does when they're forcibly deporting them.
Well,
which is what I've heard has been going on there.
If you're part of the Donetsk and Luhansk region, though, you are considered a Russian separatist in the region. And yet, because they're bombing the area, because they can't tell who's who, right? They're sort of screwed, and they're going to Mother Russia, basically, right? That's the only answer I can think of. Anyway, point is 404,000. And then you look at the numbers of people going to Moldova, which is sort of I like to call it a 50-50 nation. One. Yeah, because Moldova is the poorest country in the region. You've heard me say this before. And the other problem is because of the poorest region in the nation, they couldn't stop what the Russians were doing in their own country. They basically wandered in, and they had 9,000 troops, and they said, yeah, you see all this here? We're just going to administer our troops in this area, and we're going to move into Ukraine when we give the word. Deal with it. And Moldova was like, listen, we can't afford to lose what little we've got. Don't break our dinner plates. Just fucking come here, do what you got to do, and get the hell out. As soon as Russia did that, the first thing they said was, we will accept Ukrainian refugees. We were forced, sort of held at geopolitical gunpoint by the Russians, so please don't hold it against us. And then you look at the numbers of people going to Belarus, and you sort of scratch your head. Because the number of people that fled to Belarus is 1/10 the number... Sorry, I got that wrong. It's equal to the number of those Russian soldiers who were staged in Belarus before they wandered across the border. They had 20,000 troops in Belarus that were part of the offensive to try to take Kyiv. They failed, clearly.
Miserably.
And then you look at the numbers that have gone to Poland, and you kind of shake your head and go, yeah, that's kind of to be expected. And you look at the numbers who have gone to Slovakia and Hungary, and you're like, yeah, it's kind of to be expected too. And Romania as well. The Russian Federation numbers are the ones that really blow my mind. Because the separatists are like, we didn't sign up for this shit. What the hell's going on, right? So there's that. I'm currently loading a Croatian mag with last round.
Still?
Well, no, I'm doing the Croatian one now. I did the U.S. Palm. And
No, you're still loading mags.
Oh, I decided to start redoing them just now. I took time off when I was setting up the show prep or whatever. Just consider me being slow. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the stories because I've been dicking around for 15 minutes. My bad. Alright, so the first story I've got for you comes out of Finland and Sweden, actually, at 12:31 a.m. Central Standard Time, my time. Would have been 7:31 Ukrainian local time. Here you go. And the story basically says is Finland and Sweden are reportedly set to join NATO. Now, that's not really the special part of the story. The special part of the story is the fact that NATO is fully willing to fast track applications into NATO. And the question I have to ask is where the fuck were you in 2014 when Ukraine was asking to join NATO before Russia took over Crimea? That's a question worth asking. Because now all of a sudden they're like, oh, our bad. Yeah, we'll go ahead and fast track the next applicants, who just happen to be, oh, I don't know, Sweden and Finland. So like it says here, Sweden and Finland set to join NATO as early as this summer, meaning they're on the fast track. Officials are quoted as having said that Russia made a major strategic blunder as the two countries are forecasted to join the alliance in the coming months. Had NATO responded to Russian aggression back in 2014, this war would have never happened with Ukraine. Had they responded as late as 12 months ago, when Russia was beginning its buildup around the outside periphery of Ukraine, this could have been avoided. This is basically Russia going, our bad, bro. We'll get it right this time. So when Sweden and Finland said, hey, we want to join NATO, we have an 837-mile-long border with Russia, and they scare us, Jens Stoltenberg was like, you know what? We got you covered, bro. We're not going to make the same mistake twice. So there's that. Moving right along. About half an hour later, I got a report that shows that this is 8:01 a.m. Ukrainian time. By official numbers, at least 1,793 Ukrainian civilians have been killed and 2,439 have been injured since the start of the Russia-Ukraine war. According to the UN, that is. The figure includes 458 women, 294... Sorry, let me start that over. 458 men, 294 women, as well as 899 adults whose gender is not known. Apparently there's no biologists in Ukraine. Maybe they should send Ketanji Brown Jackson. Just saying. Either way. Let's see. The number also includes 27 girls, 46 boys, and an additional 69 whose genders are not known. I would only assume because of the way this story was written and structured, they meant children. Very possible. Either way. Let's move on. This is Luhansk, and at 10:03 Ukrainian local time, 3:03 my time, Ukrainian forces destroyed a Russian ammo depot. Kharkiv Oblast shelled 66 times over the past 24 hours. I think I loaded the wrong picture here. No, I think maybe that's right. Kharkiv Oblast Governor Ole Syebunov said that Russian forces had used artilleries, mortars, and MLRs to attack residential neighborhoods, 11 people. Oh no, this is the wrong picture. My bad. I got this a little backwards. Wait a minute. Then what's this next picture? Yeah, it's the same one. My bad. Let me see if I can fix this real quick. Oh, it's the same picture. Never mind. Okay, count this as a blooper. Let me just take that away real quick. Anyway, 10:03 a.m. Ukrainian forces destroyed a Russian ammo depot. Government had confirmed this. Russians were pissed, obviously. And 2 hours later, then I can show you this, which is 11 dead in Kharkiv following Russian artillery shelling volleys and missile attacks. They attacked 66 times over the course of 24 hours. 11 people were killed. Kharkiv Oblast Governor Ole Syehubov, I'm so bad at this, said that Russian forces had used artillery, mortars, and MLRs, which is mobile. Mobile? I don't think I got that backwards. I forgot. Short-range missile launchers, basically.
Multiple launch systems.
Thank you. Multiple launch rocket systems. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
To attack several residential neighborhoods. 11 people were killed, including a child, and another 14 were injured. Wow, I really overloaded that magazine. Son of a bitch. No wonder it was so tight. I should probably focus on the show. Anyway, let's move on. About 30 minutes later, it's about 12:30-ish Ukrainian time, and Ukrainian president. So let me put this picture up for you here. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Monday that Mariupol is effectively destroyed. A couple of weeks back, there was a story that said that 80% of the city had been shelled and destroyed, and it was unrecoverable. And most people in the region basically said that you cannot rebuild Mariupol. You just have to start all over from scratch. Kind of a shame. Anyway, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says that Monday that Mariupol is completely destroyed. Tens of thousands of people are dead, but Russians are still continuing their military operation regardless. Zelensky made the remark while addressing South Korean lawmakers. So this is the first time he addressed South Korea. Now this is a guy who has a knack for reaching out and touching the hearts of the people he's addressing through historical references. And yet, why is that last mag not loading? Whatever. Oh, it does. Never mind. He addressed South Korean lawmakers. Ukraine needs various military technologies from airplanes to tanks, he reportedly said. South Korea can help us. Mariupol officials have estimated that roughly 5,000 civilians had been killed, but warned last week that given the size of the destruction caused to the city, the death toll will actually be in the tens of thousands. You have to remember, Mariupol was, I think, the 5th largest city in the country. They had a population of more than 400,000 people. To say that only 5,000 were killed is inaccurate and probably foolish and underestimating. So, it's pretty sad, actually. Moving right along, because I'm trying to get you in and out of here today, because there wasn't very many stories. Sorry. This one was a bit odd to me. So here's a photo. And you probably saw this in yesterday's episode, but it actually ties to today's news. 2:38 p.m. Ukrainian time, or Moscow time, depending on who you're asking, because both are in the same time zone, and both are sort of releasing their own version of the facts plus counterfacts. Russia's military on Monday is claiming to have destroyed air defense systems that were delivered to Kyiv, or to the Kyiv regime, by a unnamed European country. Now pay attention, we talked about this yesterday. The Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation said in a statement that the 4 S-300 launchers were hidden in a hangar near the eastern Ukrainian city of Dnipro, and that 25 Ukrainian soldiers were also hit in the strike. I'm sorry, if you're hitting Ukrainian soldiers with missiles, you didn't hit them, you eradicated them. High-precision sea-launched Caliber missiles destroyed the equipment of an S-300 anti-aircraft missile division, which had been delivered to the Kyiv regime by a European country. Russia did not elaborate on which country supplied the air defense systems to Ukraine. However, NATO member Slovakia, which did announce last Friday that it gave an S-300 system to Ukraine, says theirs have not been hit at all, so they don't know what Russia's talking about. How convenient. They're getting S-300s. Now Russia's just reaching and clawing and struggling for a victory at this point. I guess I'll load the P-Mag with Steelies this time. Okay, so let's fast forward a couple of hours. We're past curfew now. It's 6:39 p.m. Ukrainian time. 11:39 my time, Central Standard Time. I have this photo for you here, which is actually quite nice because that's a good looking photo actually, in terms of what it is and what it's doing. Fresh images are emerging showing Ukraine's military striking back at Russian forces in the Donbas region. Uh-oh. Okay, it's back. That was weird. Sorry. If there was a pause in the video, my apologies. I just got a notification from YouTube that I was offline. So I'll start this part over. 6:39 p.m. Ukrainian time. Fresh images are emerging showing Ukraine's military striking back at Russian forces in the Donbas region as its fight against Vladimir Putin's army is shifting east. The scenes of rockets being launched at Russian positions near the city of Luhansk comes as the United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense is reporting frequent shelling by Moscow's forces there. And Warsaw Patriot, you are correct. Those things are pretty sick. Where did I leave off? Russian shelling has continued in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, with Ukrainian forces repelling several assaults, resulting in the destruction of Russian tanks, vehicles, and artillery equipment, it is said in their tweet Monday. So the numbers that you're seeing at the bottom are relatively accurate because even the Russians are starting to lick their wounds and go, stop beating our ass. Russia's continued reliance on unguided bombs decreases their ability to discriminate when targeting and conducting strikes while greatly increasing the risk of further civilian casualties. This was a Ukrainian counteroffensive, and the really difficult thing is they're both using the same hardware, so who claims the victory? Because it's like any photo could be like, that's ours, and then Ukrainians like, no, that's ours. Look, look, those missiles are headed east, and we're obviously kicking your ass. That's basically what that looks like to me. And no, I did not mirror image that, so it is going east. Anyway, let's move on. 12:41 Central Standard Time for me. 7:41 p.m. Ukrainian time. Dusk. This is usually where the Russian Air Force starts to become real dicks. But I'm going to talk about something else, and I'm going to show you this guy's photo. Bing! Because it's actually 7:41 also in Moscow. Austrian Chancellor Karl Nehammer on Monday became the first leader from a European Union country to visit Moscow during its bloody invasion of Ukraine, holding what he described as a very direct, open, and tough meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Nehammer's Moscow visit comes after a trip on Saturday to Kyiv, where he met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. In a statement released by his office after the meeting, Nehammer said Monday his primary message to Putin was that this war needs to end. Because in war, both sides can only lose. The Austrian leader stressed that the Monday trip was not a friendly visit, but rather his duty to exhaust every possibility for ending the violence in Ukraine. Austria, according to Reuters, gets 80% of its natural gas imports from Russia. Austria is also a member of the EU and has backed has backed the 27 nation bloc's sanctions against Russia, though it so far has opposed to cutting off deliveries of Russian gas. Well, duh. You can talk shit about the hand that feeds you, but you're still not gonna, you know, tell them to go ahead and turn it off, fuck around and find out. Clearly.
Just out of curiosity, does
Sure.
the Austrian PM have a funny little mustache?
No. No, he's got like a 5 o'clock shadow thing going on.
Just checking, because the last Austrian that tried to go into Moscow, didn't get to Moscow.
He didn't make it to Moscow. He laid siege to Stalingrad. And apparently the Russians think that they can do it better this time. So, whatever.
No, they're still handing out Mosin, so what's that tell you?
Let's see. Warsaw asked why the hell does the rest of Europe rely heavily on the Russian government? Well, because if you look at the continent of Europe, they don't really have natural gas deposits. If you look at the geography of that country, there's a lot of mountains, there's a lot of coast, and there's not a lot of natural resources underneath that topography. So they're forced to be dependent on imported energy because apparently they don't have enough nuclear power plants to power their countries, which I suspect in the near future is going to change dramatically.
Yeah, didn't France announce they were opening like 12?
Yeah, and I think we should too. I think the more this goes on, the more we're going to start to fall in line with the lore of Fallout. To be perfectly honest, I think the world is beginning to realize.
You think there's going to be convergence?
Well, they need to realize that they have to embrace the atom because it's one of the cleanest forms of energy out there. It doesn't produce anything except water vapor in the cooling towers. Now, yes, there's nuclear waste afterwards, but in relation to how much energy it produces to how much nuclear waste is created, it's still less than all these stupid fucking laptops on wheels called hybrid vehicles and all the batteries they're producing. There's more shit. Besides, who's to say that you can't just take all this nuclear waste and drop it in the Marianas Trench, 7 miles below the ocean surface? Nobody's thinking about these things. I am.
I'm sure there are.
I'm thinking about these things. I mean, there's no three-eyed fish down there yet, so why don't we make a few? Whatever. All right, fast forward. Let's move on. Let's see. This is about an hour later, about 8:46 p.m. Moscow, and I'm going to show you a photo of something that makes me sort of nauseous. This guy. You know him as Sergei Lavrov. I call him Sergey the LapDog because he's nothing but a shill and a bitch. Either way, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Monday that Moscow remains interested in peace talks with Ukraine, but it will not pause any of its military operations, even while the two sides try to get together. The development comes as Russian officials say negotiations with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's government have been progressing at a pace slower than they had hoped for. No, what you've been expecting is capitulation, and you're not getting that. Instead, boots to ass are making you look like fools. That's the reality of it. The news agency, citing comments Lavrov made Monday to Russian state television, quoted him as saying that that President Vladimir Putin ordered the military to halt operations during the first rounds of talks back in late February. After we became convinced that the Ukrainians were not planning to reciprocate, a decision was made that during the next rounds of talks, there would be no pause in military action so long as the final agreement is not reached. Lavrov was reportedly on the record for saying. The problem is you are the invaders. You are the criminals. You are the douchebags. You don't get to dictate policy. Which is why you look like a retard on this podcast with that stupid look on your face. Fuck out of here. Moving right along. Let's see. We're going to fast forward another hour. And I don't have a photo for this. I put a caption in there, but the more when I just reread it, I realized it's not got a photo. 3:47 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Washington, D.C. President Biden on Monday said the United States and India are in close consultation in managing the destabilizing effects of Russia's war on Ukraine. Now, you're probably wondering, what the hell does India have to do with anything? Number one, India has been recognized as what you would call an emerging power. They're what you would call a second world country. You always hear first world, you always hear third world. India is what you would call a second world country, an emerging power. They have a they have a small, incredibly rich and influential upper class, and they have an incredibly gigantic lower class. But in the last, say, 10 years, they have an emerging middle class. And that's usually when your public stock markets in your country begin to really take off. That's what you have with India. They're an emerging power. They have nuclear power, they have nuclear plants, they have nuclear weapons, and now they're starting to build domestic military equipment based off of leases and purchases of foreign military equipment. So, for instance, they're building their first domestic aircraft carrier as we speak. What did the United States provide to this? The propulsion system. What did the British provide for this? The targeting and radar system. What did the Russian government produce for this? The aircraft that are on it. Things like that, right? So they're doing sort of a greatest hits. Well, because of that, because they're emerging power, because they're a country of over 1 billion people, they have to be brought to the table because they're an emerging power, geopolitically. They're also one of the biggest telephone call center networks in the world. I guess that's a good way to put it. I'm not trying to be like belligerent about this. It's just they have a service industry that is huge. They also have a scam industry that's becoming quite annoying. But the fact of the matter is, the biggest export out of India is physicians, doctors. But they also have one of the largest electronic call centers in the world because cheap labor, right? Plus, yeah, okay, if you can get past their accent, their command of the English language is quite good compared to, say, China, right?
Well, how long were they a British colony for?
Well, until the 1950s, late 40s-ish. Anyway, point is, they're an emerging power. And so they had these conversations with India because India is still buying Russian oil because India needs it, and yet Russia's desperate to sell it for pennies on the dollar at a heavy discount because no one's buying their oil. So they were like, if anyone's willing to buy, we'll give you a 20% discount. And India's like, fuck yeah. You don't even have to use shipping to get it to us. You know, we can use trains, land routes. So Russia's like, make us an offer. India made an offer. Russia's like, yeah, it's not a very good deal for us, but hey, at least we're selling some oil. We're pushing some stuff out there. Maybe we'll have some geopolitical influence because now you're dependent on us for oil. Naturally, Joe Biden is like, I better talk to these people. Otherwise, I'll have to free the shit out of them later with Tomahawk missiles, right? So anyway, the president held a virtual meeting with India's Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, on Monday and said that the U.S. and India share a strong and growing major defensive partnership. Sure they do, right? The meeting, according to a senior administration official, lasted for about an hour, and the two leaders had a very candid conversation to discuss a range of bilateral and global issues. The meeting was warm and productive, and they covered a lot of ground. Pretty sure Biden was just like, will you please stop buying oil from Russia? You're making yourselves look bad, and you will isolate yourself in future geopolitical discussions. Indians are like, we need oil, and you cut off your Keystone Pipeline, so we can't buy it from you. So until you can make up the numbers that we need that Russia's providing us, shut the fuck up. I was going to do that in an Indian accent, but that's probably offensive. Either way, all of a sudden we shut down our oil pipelines, we stopped drilling, and yet we're going to turn around and try to give assurances to Europe and now India. Oh, don't worry, bro, we'll make up for the oil that you're not getting from Russia. How? Because we're not even making up for it for ourselves. We're minus 1 million barrels of production per day thanks to that idiot in the White House. But hey, I'm not bitter. I totally love spending $71 for a tank of fucking gas. Moving on. Before I lose it. 10 minutes to 5. Scott and I think Patrick, and I think it was just Scott and Patrick at that time, but I was looking forward to leaving because I was going to go pick up my birthday present. 10 minutes to 5, 11:50 p.m. Ukrainian time, so we're almost already touching day 48. And I do have a photo for you. It's right here. It's actually just an icon because apparently the U.S. Army has a PSYOPs division. I did not know this.
So is the Navy.
Let's see. Russia's Ministry of Defense claimed that members of NATO have deployed specialists to Ukraine in a psychological influence operation meant to disparage Russia. PSYOPs. Ooh. Lieutenant General Mikhail Mizintsev, head of Interagency Coordination Headquarters for Humanitarian Response. Wow, that's a hell of an acronym. Specifically pointed to the United States and France of engaging in PSYOP activities, according to reporting from Russia state-owned media. Mizintsev said that the foreign operatives are attempting to spread misinformation about Russia and lay the groundwork to accuse its forces of war crimes. Ooh.
Nah, I'm pretty sure they're already accusing me of war crimes.
Yeah, we're up there somewhere, right? But Rebecca Koffler, an author and former DIA intelligence officer, reveals or believes that the declaration by Mizintsev is an attempt by Russia to launch its own disinformation campaign as a way to cover for potential crimes committed in Ukraine. This statement is almost certainly Russia's own disinformation campaign intended to hide Russia's hand in the atrocities that have been, are being, and will be conducted in the coming weeks by Russian forces in Ukraine. The goal is to blame Ukraine in order to confuse the Western audiences about who exactly commits brutality in Ukraine. Now, I'm sorry. Ukrainians committing atrocities against fellow Ukrainians while Russians are occupying your country. How likely does that actually sound to any of you? Sounds like a fucking joke to me. Of course, the Russians are like, no, the Ukrainians are totally killing their own people. We are trying to stop this fascism and this Nazism. Bullshit. Moving right along. Okay. 5:48 p.m. It is now 12:48. Ukrainian time. It is day 48, early morning. This is from Liz Truss. She is a UK government official. Pentagon Foreign Secretary Liz Truss said that the UK was looking to confirm reports that Russian forces have used chemical agents in an attack on Mariupol. Now, bear in mind, the Butcher of Syria is now in charge of that operation. So, of course, these accusations are going to fly, because this is what he does. This is exactly what he does. Oh, apparently I've already filled this mag. Where was I? Any use of such weapons would be a callous escalation in this conflict, and we will hold Putin and his regime to account. Sure thing, honey. I believe you, totally. An hour later, Washington, D.C., 7:49 p.m. Washington, D.C. Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby, the Admiral, said that the U.S. has not been able to confirm these reports of a chemical attack in Mariupol. We are aware of social media reports which claim Russian forces deployed a potential chemical munition in Mariupol, Ukraine. He said this in a statement Monday afternoon. I watched it live. We cannot confirm at this time, and we will continue to monitor the situation closely. These reports, if true, are deeply concerning and reflective of concerns that we have about Russia's potential to use a variety of riot-control agents, including tear gas mixed with chemical agents in Ukraine. There's a reason why I kept this particular picture up, was to show you that, okay, yeah, it's obviously on the minds of the Pentagon. Anyway. Technically, this is the last story I have for you today, because we've already started touching into day 48 in the conflict. So I didn't really want to bleed past that. However, domestically, we have had other news that I think bears discussion. So if you are a practitioner, believer, follower, believer of the Second Amendment, then what you probably noticed was that Captain Sundown today had a press conference. And in that press conference, he literally declared war on the American people in the form of a ban on what he calls ghost guns. And I suspect as the days go by, you're going to see a lot of what you would call YouTube influencers talk about the misinformation campaign of ghost guns. Now, the first thing I'd like to point out is Polymer 80, the company, has never, ever, in its entire run, called its product a ghost gun. This is nomenclature and spin by anti-gunners. Clearly, obviously. If you don't know what a ghost gun is, which if you're watching this you probably do, but let's just say you don't. It is a receiver or a firearm that was manufactured by the operator who built it. It is your constitutional right to do so. It is part of the Second Amendment to keep and bear arms, which includes manufacture of said bear arms, because at the time that that was written, many people at the time had to build their own firearm or a facsimile of an already existing design of firearm. Otherwise, they'd have no firearm. This is a nation of craftsmen and immigrants and innovative people. So it naturally stands to reason that, yes, you will build your own firearm. You have the right to build your own hot rod or kit car. And yet, when it comes to firearms and your Second Amendment rights, all of a sudden, the government wants to move the goalposts and deny you the right to do that. And what I would like to point out in this time we have left today is what the fuck gave the federal government the audacity to try to strip away the very check and balance that was placed against them, given to us by the founders of this country. Now, a quick brief history lesson. The Constitution of the United States wasn't ratified until the year 1791, but the fancy year you hear about in history books is obviously 1776. So what the hell happened between 1777 and 1790? And the answer is pretty simple. They were trying to sort out how the hell they were going to govern this fledgling nation. And what they couldn't agree on was ratifying the Constitution of the United States of America. which is the law of the land written by the founders. And what it took to get the 13 original colonies to all agree on the ratification of the Constitution of the United States was the Bill of Rights. 10 amendments to the original document to spell out your God-given rights, essentially, right? These were written as a concession to all 13 colonies. I'm sure each colony had its own part in each one of the first 10 amendments, right? But the fact of the matter is it was required to be added and ratified to make the Constitution of the United States stick. Now, I'm not going to say that it was passed in order of importance, because that's already been proven. The first 10 rights in the Bill of Rights, they're not put in order of importance. You could make an argument for them to be, but they weren't. And the fact of the matter is it was so important to the founding of this nation that they were put there, that they're the very foundation of why this system works. And at the end of the day, the very amendment that was meant to be the ultimate check and balance to an overbearing and tyrannical government is the one that's under constant attack by an overbearing federal government. And today, they had the audacity to tell you that you were not allowed to build your own firearm in the name of public safety. Now, I've said this before in my week in review chats long before we started doing the War Room. But the fact of the matter is this: you can pass 1 million new laws. 1 million new laws. And for a determined criminal, it's just going to be 1 million new laws that they break. See, the thing is law is a lot like religion, in the sense that it only works if you believe in it and put your faith behind it to make it work. But if you don't believe in the law, then you don't abide by the law, which means it doesn't matter how many you put up, you're still not going to follow it because it's unjust to you. At least as a citizen. But as a criminal, it doesn't fucking matter. You put up a law, and they're just like, whatever. You could say we're banning all guns. They're still going to get guns. The only way you're going to stop guns in the country is if the entire world suddenly forgot that they existed, and they all disappeared one day. But the fact is that'll never happen. And because of the way our Constitution and our Bill of Rights is written, it'll never go away. Because if you want to see an example of why the Second Amendment is so important, look no further than Russia. Look no further than Ukraine. You have Russians fighting a sovereign nation with weapons. You have Ukrainians being given weapons wholesale by nations all around the world. Fully fucking automatic guns from the United States are going to the Ukraine. And yet the citizens of the United States are not allowed to have them. What the fuck? And then they turn around and say, no, you can't have them. You look at Russia, a nation that has no gun rights. They're a disarmed people. There are stipulations for shotgun ownership for farmers, but they don't, by and large, have firearms. Why do you think Putin's still in power? Because nobody can overthrow him. Because they don't have the weapons to do it. If you ever needed an example of why the Second Amendment is so important, look no further than Russia. Do you think all those people, all the people that are 25 years old and younger, conscripts, military academy students, high schoolers and high schoolers and young university students in Russia, do you think they want any part of Putin's war? They weren't even born into communism. They were born into a capitalist-free Russian Federation. This is the wet dream of a decrepit old man. This is his desire and his little FSB buddies pushing this and threatening the youth of the country to follow orders or die, which they're dying anyway. They can't stop him. They don't have the weapons to do so. They don't have the balls to do it because they don't have the weapons to do it. They don't have the talisman to give them courage and strength. And yet today, ghost guns. That's on... Ukraine is under siege. Russia is attacking. China is a threat to the world. And yet the most important... And the southern border is a fucking colander. We have a multinational invading criminal army on its way to just walk across the border. Because that's what they are. They're not undocumented immigrants. They are criminal invaders. They are criminals. You can't come across the border and go, okay, I'm here, you can trust me now. No, you broke the national trust by how you got here. Fuck off. I can say that. I'm not offending you. My mother did it the right way. That's why I'm here. So don't fucking lecture me on immigration reform. Fuck you. She did it the right way. You can do it the right way. They are criminal invaders. You can declare war on the host nations of every one of those people and put them on notice. You don't have to fire a shot. You could just say, hey, Honduras, you're going to let your people just wander in here? We declare war on you. Fuck around and find out what happens next. Do you think they're going to try to provoke us after we declare war on them? No. They're going to be like, holy shit, we better stop this. This is what happens when you have an idiot in charge. Which is why we're not energy independent anymore. Which is why you are now paying $4.27 on average per gallon of regular gas. Pwnery paid $17 the day before the election in 2020 to fill his tank with 93 octane super. He paid $71 yesterday. Why? Anyway. End rant. If you want a Polymer 80 anything, you better get it now. They're taking back orders. Most places are sold out. If you want to get a PSA dagger in various forms of disassembly, you still can. However, they've changed their policy. Even the strip frames now require an FFL to transfer. I don't know how I feel about that. I really don't. Then again, Scott and I talked about this today. I thought about maybe I should buy one as a thumb in the eye of the government. But in all honesty, I already got my Polymer 80 in an AR-10. I don't need another pistol. I have more pistols than I can ever carry. I have a very eclectic collection of pistols. If I were to get a Polymer 80 pistol, fine, but I'm not actively seeking one. I'm not saying you can't have one. I encourage you to buy one. If you think you want one, you better buy it now. Because there may come a time where the manufacturers aren't allowed to manufacture them. So you better get it now. If you're looking for one and you're on the fence, get over that fence right now. PSA sells the cheapest version for $69. Most expensive, was it $99? With the trigger group already installed? Maybe it has...
If you want just the bottom frame.
Right. If you have to go to your FFL to get it, did they serialize it? I'm pretty sure their current inventory is not serialized. What are they going to do?
Yeah, stop all... They were saying... They were showing on their website sold out on all their in-store locations. So what's that tell you?
I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I looked.
I kept my promise. We're 59 minutes in, and I'm done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and play this. My goal this week is to try to get every show within an hour, because I know keeping you here for 2 to 3 hours is probably not reasonable. So anyway, I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch today. I know it was a shorter show, but it's sort of by design. I'm trying to keep this shorter to save you guys time. I'm trying to get all this out. I have a Smith & Wesson 500 actually. You saw it in my channel. But if you haven't, because you're new here, welcome. If you're a regular here, welcome back. Either way, check out my other playlists and see if my other interests might be of interest to you. because the Smith & Wesson 500 M400 backpacker is in the playlist. I uploaded it 2 weeks ago. Anyway, this was the War Room. This was day 47. Slava Ukraini. We'll see you tomorrow for day 48. Later.